ago, I started doing like my own thing with the Swamp label, just trying to push sort of good quality electronic music, trying to not get bogged down with the genre thing. And yeah, kind of takes me up to now. That's the brief overview.
That is quite brief. Impressive. When you kind of started out making beats, did you kind of know that you were doing something different or something that wasn't out there, and did you know it was kind of good? Because I know like sometimes when you make stuff that doesn't sound like anything else out there, it's hard to know if what you're doing is actually any good.
Yeah, we didn't have a clue. I mean, we grew up listening to sort of from like hardcore into jungle, drum and bass, and that was like what we always thought would be our path. That's the music we thought we'd be making. But in about sort of 98, it changed a little, and for us, we didn't really like it anymore. Do you know what I mean? So then we were just writing anything. We didn't know what it was, and we were just doing it for fun. We really didn't. We kind of, when drum and bass died for us, it was almost like, yeah, we didn't think music would happen after that. So we just wrote beats for fun for each other, and yeah, we never thought this.
So you weren't like in your mind thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make loads of money DJing. It was more just like, I'm enjoying it.
No, yeah. It was like we'd given up. If I'm honest, I definitely used to think, yeah, one day I'll be like a massive drum and bass DJ and I'll have a label like Metalheads and blah 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 blah. And then it's like once you give up on it, it happened. I don't know, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard that people say that quite a lot. Like when you become less attached to what you're going for, that's usually like when it works. So did you have like a plan B? Were you like, oh, I'm going to go and work in a bank?
No.
Oh, this ain't working.
No, it was. No, we were working at the time, but the early times it was just literally we worked just normal jobs, and yeah, the music was like our release. It was just our fun, and yeah, didn't have a clue where it was going to go. And we didn't really have a clue what we were doing either. We were just writing for fun. Had no like background in production or anything. It was just finding out how things work and swapping little techniques with each other, and I don't know. Just like boys with train sets, that's how we used to look at it. It was just like a hobby. Yeah.
So where did you get to the point where you were like, I mean, you said you were working anyway and kind of making tunes for fun. Like, where did it get to the point where you were like, oh, I can actually do this and not have to work? Like, was it kind of a pivotal point?
Just after the Marianne Hobbs Step Wars show, the first one she did.
When was that?
2000. Yeah.
Oh, he knows the stuff.
Yeah, 2006. Yeah. And I remember, like, literally, I've been working that day, and me and Pokes, we used to put adverts on the side of black cabs, and we've been working like a 12-hour shift, and we had to go straight to the Radio 1 thing. And luckily, it blew up after that, and yeah, it was about a month more work. And then yeah, it wasn't like we could give up work, but it wasn't like everything was.
Wasn't like one day, like, yeah, I'm going to quit my job.
No, but food was in my belly and the roof was over my head.
Which is always important, really.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, what I think with someone like you is like you've obviously seen the kind of birth of dubstep before it was even dubstep to where it's kind of got to now. Must be quite an interesting role to have, to be able to kind of see the journey that it's gone on and kind of see what's happening with it now, as in it's going into the charts, like people like Nero and Chasing Status and stuff. Like, what's kind of, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but what's your kind of view on it? It almost seem a bit surreal.
I don't know, not too bad, to be honest. I think it's just progression. And yeah, like, to be honest, I'm not strictly speaking first generation dubstep. First generation was more like Benny Hill, like Horsepower, Zed Bias, or J, that kind of firm. And it's funny, I was with Zed last night and we were talking about it. It was like, when we came along doing what we call dubstep, the older guys were like, what's this? And it's kind of similar to how, when this new generation of dubstep has come along, it's like, what is this? At the same time, it's like, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I think if people were enjoying the music and having a good time, then yeah, it's a brilliant thing. I think it's a hard thing to feel that you're not as relevant to something that you were integral to, and then suddenly you realise, oh wait a minute, it's just not me anymore, you know? It's not. that's more of a thing you have to deal with personally. Progression in music is never a bad thing, you know? Just because maybe you don't like the sound of something, that's your personal ear. If a lot of people are having fun and enjoying it, that's the main thing. And yeah, so I think progression's a good thing, but you have to be honest with yourself, and if something progresses away from you personally, then you have to let it go, you know, you have to be like...
Have you found that quite hard? Like saying, oh, you feel like maybe, I mean, I think you are, I think we'd all probably say you are quite relevant still to what's going on, but if you're saying like, you know, you've got to sometimes think, oh, maybe I'm not that relevant anymore, like, how is that to kind of cope with that?
It's a mad one, it is. Because dubstep was, for me, like a very, very special thing. And then a few years later, I found myself sort of DJing music, which was called dubstep. But I didn't really love the music personally, you know? And I was DJing to crowds where it was like, I didn't relate to them. And that's where sort of honesty left it, you know, for me personally. And it was like, that's the most important thing. You have to be honest with what you're doing and honest to yourself, I think. Otherwise, what you're doing, you're a fraud, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a difficult transition to make, but if you just are thankful that you've lived what you've lived and you were there at certain points, then brilliant, and then look to the future, new plan, what's next?
Okay, cool. So before we move on to what's next, maybe we should play something from the beginning.
Like the dubstep beginning?
Whatever you think is the beginning.
Nah.
Your beginning. And maybe just tell us a bit about what you're playing and what meaning it's got to you. So what is this one?
If I've labelled it right, it's Who Are Those Guys by Scream. It's Big Apple 7.
And when was this? When did you get hold of this?
2004 or 5, something
Okay.
like that.
Who are those guys?
Cool, so do you want to say anything about that record in particular?
Yeah. It's a dope record. And I played it because, I don't know, it makes me think of back then, which was just a load of boys with dreams kind of thing. And I used to love playing that because just before it dropped out that sample saying, who are those guys? And that's what it was at the time. It's like, who were we? We were just some guys from Croydon who didn't really care about what you were doing or you were doing. We were just like, we're doing our thing. And yeah, the other reason is because I play it is because it's Scream, Ollie. He's out of our generation, I swear he is such a talent, it's insane, it really is. Back then me and him used to spend like a lot of time together just in the studio working out what was what. And yeah, the guy's just got magic, do you know what I mean? He's written all kinds of styles, all over the place, and whatever he sort of lays his hand to, it's got that little Scream magic to it, you know? And yeah, it's noteworthy.
I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about, because people do look up to you quite a lot within dubstep and kind of now moving into like newer genres, whatever you want to call that. Do you kind of feel like a lot of pressure when you're making beats to what are people out there going to think of this? Is this going to live up to what I put out before? Like,
Yeah, totally. That's why I haven't released anything in a little while.
how long haven't you released for?
I don't know. I mean, I have released certain things. I don't know. There was a couple bits that come out.
You're doing secret songs that we don't know.
No, there's a collaboration with Pinch that's just come out, and I did a thing for his album as well. His Scientist compilation. But the actual last, I think, I did properly may have been like the Bug remix, Star War. But yeah, but basically, I mean, look, I was writing beats, everything was lovely, and then I got to a point where I realised I'd stopped writing music and I'd started writing dubstep, if that makes sense. So instead of going in and writing a beat that was just free, I came in for parameters.
Yeah. That you'd kind of put on yourself.
Kind of, where it's like, well, what do I need to put in this tune to make it go off at a dance?
Yeah.
Back then it was all about rewinds as well. How many rewinds would you get? And it was like, yeah, it just got in the way of writing sort of honest music. So I got to the point where it's like, you know what, it's better to do nothing than to do something that's not right. So yeah.
Does that put even more pressure on you now for when you do actually put something out?
Not anymore. Well, I did feel a lot of pressure. I did for a little while. And then, to be honest, doing the Swan thing has just made me remember what it's about. And it doesn't matter what people think, it doesn't matter how it's received. If it's just from the heart and it's what you believe in, then that's that. And if you sell one unit and you're happy with it, that's better than selling, 5,000 units or something that you're not happy with.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it like when you put out music, obviously you're going to put money into putting the music out and you put the effort into putting the music out, but once it's out there and you've kind of spent the money on it, it doesn't matter whether you make the money back, it's like you just wanted to get the stuff out there in the first place.
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's your intention, yeah. I mean, everyone's got different motivations, but yeah, for me it's nice to make money off things, obviously, but that's got to be secondary, it has to be, for me personally anyway.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about how Swamp came about. Is this something that you've been wanting to do? You said you wanted to start a label like Metalheads. Is that something that you kind of thought, right, when I get to this point I'm going to do it? Or like, how did it come about?
I remember I wanted to do it about 2 years before I actually did it. And I wanted to start a label, and then I wanted to sort of bring across on that label what my ear naturally just picks out. It's like not really thought out, it's more kind of, if my ear naturally goes towards this style of music, then blam, we'll put it on the Swamp. And it did start off more as a sort of half-steppy, subbed out dubstep label, but yeah, it got to the point where it's like, well, does it matter what genre it is, if it's good music and it attracts my ear, like I say, yeah, I'll run with it. So yeah, I thought of doing it, and then it was just all about waiting for the right tune, especially for number one, you know what I mean? I don't want to just do any old label and think, oh yeah, now I'm doing a label, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to have some kind of credibility, and I wanted each release to be correct and right for the time. It's back to that thing, honestly, it just had to be the perfect release. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not stuff, so you don't,
I know what I'm trying to say.
So you're not trying to stick to a genre in particular, it's more just what you're feeling?
Kind of, yeah, it's like a sound, which I feel.
Okay. Have you got certain artists that you're like, I would definitely want to put out a tune by them, and then you'll wait and see when they give you the right tune, or do you just kind of, how do you like A&R your stuff?
I don't know, I mean, a lot of people on Swamp are people I know, and they're kind of a bit jaded with whatever scene they come from. And they've been in the studio and written some music for no one, which they think no one will ever hear because it's away from what they're known from. And luckily, I know these people, I go to their studio, I hear the music, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's brilliant, why don't we bring it out? So it's kind of where it was at. So it's not really, I don't have to look for things too tough, because I'm blessed to have a lot of friends who are great producers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And how did the name Swamp 81 come about?
It's